staged that out to this point. Save. All right, we got to finish this off, man. We got to get the grand finale. Let's keep going. October 14th, 12:14 p.m. District Courtroom, Defendant Lobby number 4. My sis? I could have sworn I heard Mia's voice. So then, she's still alive inside your heart. Nicky boy. Oh, Miss Delight. Is it true that Detective is the real killer? To be honest, we don't have any definite proof, but he's the only one who could have done it. But wasn't he at Lordly Taylor that night? Not to mention, we don't exactly know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Atme want to kill Kane Bullard? Oops. It's almost time. We better get back to the courtroom. I need to find some solid proof, and it's gotta happen sooner rather than later. Can you show the security picture of Mask to Mask? I thought I saw something. Yeah, I can show it. 1 second. October 14th, 12:21 p.m., District Courtroom, number 9.
Now then, this court is back in session.
Let's take a quick peek at it. Paint, Mask to Mask, no brooch. I think he has gloves on. Need representation in court. What's my rate? 17 schmeckles per trial. You did see something? Ooh. Okay, okay. Interesting. I wonder what it is that you saw. I'm not noticing it. All right.
Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Luke Atme, please take the stand.
Well, how do you do, sir lawyer? I never would have thought to have seen you acting so recklessly.
I couldn't let them hand down your verdict just yet, not when it would have given you your perfect alibi. An alibi by the name of Mask de Mask.
I am sorry. I'm afraid even the great Luke Atme has no idea what you mean. Of course, I have been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there's no way I could have known what's been going on in here.
You've been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Mask de Mask?
Indeed. It's truly child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor fools ask me to protect their valuables, they even gave me a generous reward upon returning their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my divine finger, for example.
So you continue to insist that you are in fact Mask de Mask?
Of course.
The red diamond ring. That's the hint we needed.
Very well then, Luke Atme. Let's begin with this simple question. On October 12th at 1 a.m., Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at that time?
One without knowledge lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But do not worry. I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge.
Thanks. All right, Mr. Atme. The night of the murder, speak. We're listening.
As you wish, Sir Prosecutor. I was stealing the urn as Mask de Mask, just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Mask de Mask was the same time as the murder.
It seems the main point of discussion will be this photo of the crime scene.
Everything else up until now was all part of his plan. There has to be a secret to this picture as well.
Even the great Mask de Mask cannot be in two places at once. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have a verdict to receive.
Unfortunately, Mr. Atme, we still have to do your cross-examination.
A fool is too foolish to know that he is a fool.
I think he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick. The only thing that's full of it is his alibi.
As I was stealing the urn as Mask de Mask. I was stealing the urn as Mask de Mask, just as I announced I would.
So this photograph is proof then, correct?
Indeed it is. And the man in the photo is certainly wearing a mask. That is why I am called Mask de Mask.
But conveniently, that also means there's no way to tell who this really is.
What do you mean?
Heh.
So you're saying that this is not, in fact, Luke Atme?
Yo, Sessa with that spicy host. Welcome on in, guys. Sessa, thanks for the host. Enjoy the stream, folks. I hope you had a great stream, Sessa, and welcome on in, guys. I appreciate it.
Heh. Are you saying that this is not, in fact, Luke Atme? That it could have been an accomplice dressed up as Mask de Mask to create an alibi?
Oh, what an interesting idea. Are you saying that I, Lone Wolf Luke, had an accomplice?
No. If Luke Atme was at KB Security during the murder, then Mask de Mask in this picture has to be a fake. Then there really was an accomplice, but right now I have no idea who it was. I don't have any idea right now either. Baseless objections are just what this guy wants. There's got to be another way, and I'm gonna find it. I'll come back here if I don't find anything else to press on, but... yeah, I mean, we know that... found in the shadow of Amy Faye's statue, looks like it was torn off some clothing. We have this brooch that we've got from before, which explains why this one's not wearing a brooch. But other than that, I don't know. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. I believe Adrian Andrews hired you at one point?
That is right. That was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken.
You sent the calling card to Lordly Taylor 10 days before the heist. That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, right?
Indeed, there was no reason why I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest targets.
I see. You truly are evil, aren't you?
Yes. Evil is what I am.
Hey Nick, isn't there something odd about this? Huh? Detective Atme was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lordly Taylor while he was the only one watching it, he'd have no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona. You know, that's true. It is kind of odd. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. So, by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct?
Indeed it is. That is it. The very thing that proves I committed the crime.
The very thing that proves you committed the crime. When you think about it, it's really odd. You say that almost as if you had this picture taken on purpose.
He was simply caught by the very camera that he had set up. We all have days like that.
Indeed. It turned out that there was no such thing as a perfect crime after all. Life is truly an ironic thing. A sad blue melody.
Looks like I'd better gather more information first. If he's truly the killer, there's got to be something phony in this photo. There is. There is. The time at which the camera captured Mask de Mask was at the same time as the murder. About the camera that took this photograph.
Oh, come now. It's all too clear what you're thinking.
Huh?
You think I altered the timestamp on the photograph, don't you?
I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lordly Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lordly Taylor's staff that printed that picture's data. Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way a picture could have been altered.
I see. It looks like I'd better find something else that could be suspicious. So this alibi is false? It has to be, or he couldn't have been the killer. Or it couldn't have been killed by, or it couldn't have killed Mr. Bullard at KB Security. But I'm not really spotting anything unusual. There are two possibilities. Either the mask in the photo is a fake, or the photo itself is fake. I remember that he had access to the program, or the security program. I remember examining it earlier, so I feel like he definitely could have altered it, but I don't fully know how. What else is suspicious about this? The Amy Faye statue is nowhere near. Moved again that night. Carried into the basement warehouse the day of the crime and moved again that night. So this picture had to have been taken that night, which leads us to believe that it's a fake, I think. Stealing the urn as mask to mask. I would, just as I announced I would. So this photograph is proof, correct? Indeed it is. Okay.
Objection.
I can't name the accomplice because I just don't know who it could have been if there is one. Na 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 na. I don't have a photo of the crime scene the day after, unfortunately. The warehouse camera went off once around 1 a.m. on the night of the crime. Everything's pointing to a fake mask to mask, like an extra one that he staged to appear there. So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct?
Indeed it is. That is it. The very thing that proves I committed the crime.
The very thing that proves you committed the crime.
Surely even you understand by now.
Lordly Taylor provided that camera. There is no way I could have tampered with it. That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard unless I had an accomplice.
Come on, think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse and this picture that supposedly captures it. It's gotta be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture? There has to be something funny about it. I have no other things to go off of, but I don't know what it is. It looks like, I don't know, see how the big paint splotch has a little indent for a box, kind of, but it doesn't look as, like, that pink splotch in that photo doesn't really match up with this. Actually, it doesn't at all now that you mention it. It 0% matches up compared to this with the top one. That's a real perfect right angle edge right there. And that's weird. But yeah, it could just be because it's because of the Oh wait. The box. The box has no paint on it. Right? But it's also from a different perspective, it kind of looks like. We're gonna go forward and see what happens.
Are you implying that this picture is a fake?
You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse that night before the theft took place, and there's something in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night.
Very well, then let's hear what you have to say. What about this photograph do you find funny?
It's not the timestamp, is it? It can't be the timestamp. I get what you guys are saying with the statue. I know the statue is supposed to cover up the paint, but the day after the crime took place, the statue was moved, was it not? And wasn't it moved in the crime? Didn't we already address that? Didn't we already address that? I could have sworn we addressed that in a previous day. I know the statue is supposed to be here, but as far as I know, after the crime was committed, it was moved off to the corner, kind of. Let's go for it. The funny part is right here.
Why, this is a blood stain. Blood! Oh, now this case is getting interesting.
Not exactly. That stain is actually pink paint.
Oh, just paint, and peach colored at that.
From blood to peaches, this judge sure loves going on his wild tangents. The problem with this photograph is not the paint. The problem is, when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse, it turns out that something that should be there is nowhere to be seen.
Well, Mr. Wright, what is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains?
Okay, it's gotta be the statue. The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following. Well, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime, around noon, that golden statue just happened to arrive from the mountain training hall. I realized that the statue would be the perfect size for covering up all the paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it. I myself was there the night the theft took place, and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, then the statue should have been there.
But when I went there the day after the theft, the statue of the old bag was sitting in the corner. Perhaps it was somehow pushed there accidentally.
Your Honor, this statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance.
In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why the statue was moved that night?
Can you do it, Nick? Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it?
Well, Mr. Wright, I hope you're prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one who moved the golden statue on the night of the crime?
I don't know. I think it's him. But we're trying to prove that he wasn't there. So if I say it was him, then I'm kind of digging myself, right? Yo, see you later, DJ. See you later, DJ. I don't understand. I'm so lost. Okay, let's think about it. Why was it moved? Why was it moved? Let's take a look at the security camera. What? Okay, so if Luke were to move it, he would need a reason to move it, right? What is his reason for moving it? We know for a fact that the statue was there in the Lordly Taylor basement warehouse covering the paint. And we know that it was holding this sword. Damask knocked at me out with this sword during the crime with a blow to the back of the head. Perhaps because of the sword with the statue, unless, here's what I'm thinking now. Here's what I'm thinking. I don't know why it had to be moved. It didn't. I can't think of any way this statue being in the photograph would incriminate him any further, right? If Amy Faye's golden statue were in the photograph, then the only thing that would be different is right here, right next to him, there'd be a big statue in that little region where the paint is. But how does that, why does he have to move it for this photo to be a good alibi, a suitable alibi for him? Why is that a necessity? I don't think I don't understand at all why that would be the case. The only thing I'm going off of right now is this Shichishito right here. Damask knocked Acme out with this during the crime with a blow to the back of the head. I don't remember the exact date and time. 2 weeks ago. Then replaced in its box, kept out of sight. She broke her urn 2 weeks before. The only thing I can think of is right here. Into the basement warehouse the day of the crime. Moved again that night. The reason he moved the golden statue was because the statue wasn't there when he took the photo. The photo only says 58:43, but actually no, we have a camera log, don't we? The warehouse camera went off once at around 1 a.m. on the night of the crime. Let's see if we can't figure something out. Dig us in, dig us in. The one who moved the statue is none other than Luke Atme. Come now, Sir Loyal. There you go again on one of your strange delusions.
Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions?
It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night.
That is indeed very simple. However, why would I want to move a heavy golden statue?
The reason for moving the golden statue. Here's where our battle really begins.
Well, Mr. Wright, what reason did the witness have to move the statue?
The reason can be found here in this photograph. Luke Atme, you pretended to be Mask Damask to create an alibi by showing you were at Lordly Taylor that night. But this photograph contains a single fatal flaw. If the statue had been there, your lie would have been exposed like a cheap film at a drugstore. That's why you moved this statue. A single fatal flaw?
Interesting theory. Please enlighten us.
Just where in this picture does this lie exist? I think you already guessed this part. I don't know, man. My biggest thing is this right here. So my biggest idea is that the lie isn't necessarily the timestamp. We're going under the assumption that Luke Atme was at KB Security at 1:02 a.m. Guaranteed. KB Security is 30 minutes away from here, so he couldn't have been in both places at once. Absolutely not. He could have traveled between them like later, but that's neither here nor there. Now the thing is, this only states the time, but it doesn't state the date. And because he perhaps took this photo days before the crime actually took place, if he didn't move this statue, then it would prove that this photo was essentially false, because there should be a statue there. And if he didn't move it, so he was forced to go back and essentially, well, I mean, did he know about the statue arriving? That's the thing. I don't know, but this is real, like, we can't present this area because that's what we already did. This maybe is what we have to do. What can you use to prove that it was taken days before? That's the thing. I don't think I can prove that it was taken days before, because the security camera log definitely said that that there was one photo taken on the night of the crime. That being said, this photo could have been taken on a different night, and there could have also been a photo taken on the night of the crime. There could have been, this could be a different photo. Sure, I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm going with it. I'm saying the time. Naturally, the lie is in this photo at the timestamp.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you exactly what I mean. On the night in question, Luke Atme went to KB Security and murdered Kane Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious he would have been impossible for him to have been at Lordly Taylor at this time. He's sweating.
But what does that have to do with the statue being moved?
Remember, if you will, Your Honor, when was the statue placed beside the warehouse door?
Well, the statue was taken down to the warehouse the day of the crime, and it was placed there in order to cover up the paint.
Exactly. Luke Atme had already decided on the time he was going to kill the victim, and so in order to create an alibi for that time, he took this picture days before the murder took place.
What the?
Of course, the statue hadn't yet been brought down into the basement warehouse.
Oh.
So on the day of the crime, Mr. Atme must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak. Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down and placed where it wasn't supposed to be. And that is why Luke Atme had moved the statue on the night of the murder. He did it to make the room match the way it had been in this photo.
Order! Mr. Atme, is this true?
One moment, Your Honor. Have you forgotten this?
What is that?
The data for the basement warehouse computer. According to this, the camera did indeed go off on the night of the crime.
Yes, it is true that the camera had been set up by the Lordly Taylor staff. However, the program used to manage that data was yours. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data.
Order! Mr. Godot, what is the meaning of this? Godot, I warned you about making me wait. Now put that coffee down.
My 11th cup. I promised to drink no more than 17 during a trial, which means I'm still good till the last drop.
However, the defense has a very good point.
A good point? So what? We're all but travelers on a road of infinite points.
I think you got your points mixed up with your other points there, bud.
So you say this photograph was taken ahead of time and that the statue was moved in order to make it match. That's a very interesting idea.
However, there's one point that can't be denied.
Which is?
That it's only a possibility. Men that are trapped by the chains of maybe can never reach their dreams.
That's very true.
No way. Don't fall for that, Your Honor.
Hey, Mr. Damask,
Yes?
if there's no funny business in your actions as Mr. Damask, then there should be no problem with you telling us your strategy. So let's hear it.
Yes, please provide this court with your testimony about your plan to steal the sacred urn.
I first received the request from Lordly Taylor about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in the box and the valley. It was then sent to the warehouse. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. I then handled security by myself. I then handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 a.m. on October 12th.
That's pretty much all the stuff we've heard before, isn't it? Yeah, but we will find the truth hidden in the nuggets of new information here.
Witness, you're sure there are no mistakes this time?
The valley.
Very well, then.
Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
All right. First received the request from Lordly Taylor about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in a box and Zavari. It was then sent to the warehouse. Hence why I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. I then handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 a.m. on October 12th. Broken and repaired by Adrian 2 weeks ago. 14 days. He was hired 20 days ago. So he was hired while it was still broken. Right? The urn was placed in a box in Zavari. It was then sent to the warehouse while he was working there. And that's after it was broken. Da-na-na-na. Pink stains on the box, pink stains on the urn, pink stains on the floor. Ron's testimony from Damask, second height. He was stealing as directed by blackmail letters. Buzzer record, bibbity bobbity boo. The calling card. Sent before a heist, the emblem is a top secret. Touch the check button for details. I will be coming to purloin the most priceless work of art and display in your Treasures of Karain exhibit. Take good care of the speckled urn, won't you? Yours truly, Mask Damask. Let's start pressing. You were asked to guard the urn by Miss Adrian Andrews, is that right?
Indeed. It seems that they have held of my sparkling reputation.
I see Miss Andrews is still attracting the weirdos. You'd better watch out too, Maya.
The urn was placed in a box in the valley. It was then sent to the warehouse.
You mean this box?
Yes, that pathetic box. Lady Andrews was especially taken with that urn, and she wouldn't let anyone enter the storeroom, not even me.
Huh. Interesting new tidbit.
Hence why I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime.
So you're sure that you had never seen the urn before?
Indeed. You may ask Lady Andrews to confirm for yourself. My security was entirely focused on the entrance to that warehouse. However, look at me. Let no information slip whatsoever slips through my fingers. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand.
You mean this calling card?
That is right. That is without a doubt my calling card.
I guess Mr. Delight didn't make this after all. Of course. Because Atme knew about the emblem. Making this card authentic would have been child's play to him.
I then handled security by myself to ensure the climb would go smoothly.
Then no one entered the basement warehouse?
Unfortunately, there were many different treasures being taken there. Thus, for a period of approximately 5 days, people were indeed going in and out of the warehouse. At last... No, 12th.
And this is the photo that proves that, huh?
Indeed. To be honest, even if a photo was taken, I didn't think it would matter terribly much.
Hey Nick, if this photo is a fake, Detective Atme might have stolen the urn whenever this was taken. That's true. You know, he's been saying that he never saw the urn until that night. If we can prove that he's lying there, we can wrap this up and put a bow on it. I need to take a good hard look at the court record. Not a lot to go on, is there? That detective's been covering his tracks. There's only one thing we need to prove in this cross-examination. That he took this photo well before the actual night of the crime. Alright then, how do we do that? There's one thing that Atme stated very clearly. It's that he had never seen the urn before he stole it. We need to prove that he's lying. Okay. Never seen the urn before. He says the urn was broken 14 days before the crime. The card was sent 10 days before the crime. And the card says, this is the weird part. The card says, take good care of the speckled urn, won't you? Speckled urn. Now, if he had not seen the urn at this point, what speckles would he be talking about there, right? Because, sure, it's cracked as shit in this thing, but I wouldn't say speckled. I think his calling card is all the evidence we need here. Mr. Atme, if you really are Mask Demask, then you also wrote this calling card, correct?
But of course.
Is there a problem with that calling card?
Allow me to read a passage from the calling card that Mask Demask has written. Take good care of the speckled urn. Now, the speckled here. Surely this refers to the pink pattern on the urn.
Yes, that is true, but so what?
Truth be told, there's no way that Mask Demask could have known about this pattern.
What do you mean?
The pink spotted pattern on the urn is actually nothing more than paint stains.
Paint stains?
And these stains did not appear until after the urn had been taken by Lordly Taylor.
I'm not finding this joke to be very funny, Mr. Trite.
The day that sacred urn was taken to the warehouse, the urn was broken due to human error, or should I say an error-prone human. And that's when the pink paint got on the urn.
Ugh, you can't be serious.
And yet this calling card clearly mentions the paint pattern, which means Detective Atme had seen this urn long before the crime even took place. In fact, he saw it when this fake photo was taken. And because this photo is a fake, your alibi for the night of the murder no longer holds water. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that sound effect.
Witness, do you have anything to say for yourself?
All right, that did it. He's broken. Nick, I think it's still a little early for a victory pose. Huh?
It's so sad. No one has any conviction these days.
Conviction, you say?
Yesterday, we all decided unanimously that this man was mask to mask. And now, we're calling him a murderer? You don't think we're being a tad fickle?
That's a good point.
No way. Don't fall for that too, Your Honor.
You say that Luke Atme was the one who killed Kane Bullard? Let me ask you this, why would he do it?
An excellent point. Motive, Mr. White, motive. Might you, my merely murderous motive manifest?
Nick, he's getting his second wind.
If he's prepared an alibi and pinned his crime on Ron DeLite like you say, he must have had a very strong motive for murder.
The only one with any motive we've seen is Ron DeLite. Isn't that right, detective?
Indeed. According to my own research, the boy's motive is clear.
Without a motive, it is nearly impossible to prove guilt in a murder case. Now then, maybe you can enlighten us to what the defendant's motives were.
Thank you, Sir Old-Timer.
They're doing everything they can to make Ron look suspicious. Despite our lack of hard information, this may be our only chance.
I, Luke Atme, had no point of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Mask the Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron DeLite. And then again, Mr. Bullard who harbored a grudge against Mr. DeLite for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he has masked the mask. That is why Mr. DeLite saw it fit to kill Kane Bullard. Truly a tragedy.
So the victim, Kane Bullard, blackmailed the defendant?
This is
the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. A handwritten test confirms that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one that wrote this letter.
What? That's news. But there we go. That's something for us, I guess.
Very well, Mr. Wright. Begin your cross-examination.
I, Luke Atme, had no point of contact with the victim whatsoever.
I just want to take a quick look at some evidence before we dive any further, because this blackmail letter, the thing about this blackmail letter is the red diamond, and he explicitly mentioned a red diamond at the start of today's, of his part of today's trial. And who in the world is going to prove that?
I will. After doing a much thorough background check of Detective Atme and Kane Bullard, we were unable to find any links between them. It's all in the report.
Perhaps they were connected through their work? They were both involved in security.
Nope.
That was blunt.
In any case, the only one with a motive was Mr. DeLite. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Mask the Mask and simply mistook who he was.
Mistook.
That is right, mistook. From the Old Norse mistaka, meaning to take an L.
That wasn't what I meant.
Just who did the victim mistake Mask to Mask to be?
Why, the answer is obvious. Ron DeLite, of course.
Boy, I'd like to wipe that smug look off this guy's face. Why would the victim mistake the defendant for Mask to Mask?
Don't you already know that? Zevali, take a look at this newspaper.
Oh, that's the famous Tear of Emanon, a magnificent jewel.
That photo shows a magnificent detective as well, does it not? Furthermore, it also shows an ugly card, namely the defendant.
The defendant?
The victim clearly misled the article, and the valley, he got the wrong impression. The impression that this ugly security guard was in fact Mask the Mask.
I see.
That was an unusually reasonable deduction. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight. You mean this blackmail letter right here?
It says bring 50,000.
And the handwriting is without a doubt the victim's.
There's no mistake. We have an official report to prove it. But I don't see an addressee on this letter anywhere.
An addressee?
This letter was discovered in Delight's apartment, and Mr. Delight did show up at the designated place at the time. The fact that there is no address is irrelevant.
I wonder. What's up, Nick? I just had a thought. What if that blackmail letter wasn't meant for Mr. Delight? Whoa. Do you have any evidence of that? For some reason, I just can't shake the feeling that there's something not quite right about this blackmail letter.
Well, everyone, are you quite satisfied?
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that the blackmail letter was originally given to Atme and then forwarded to Ron Delight. And this is making his motive for murder a lot more clear. If KB Security Chief CEO Head had already discovered everything going on with, because the important thing that none of us have ever talked about in this trial is the red diamond. He's the only one with a red diamond. This can't have been sent to Ron Delight. He has no track record of stealing a red diamond. Wrote it and sent it to Ron Delight. I disagree. I think it was sent to you. I object. Mind if I ask you a few questions, Detective Atme?
Well, if it is just a few, I guess it is all right.
When you said that this letter was addressed to Ron Delight, I couldn't help but notice one major contradiction.
Contradiction?
I don't know where a walking contradiction like you gets off saying things like that.
You're one to talk.
At times like these, men are made to express themselves with their fists. Why don't you show us what you got there, Junior? Indeed. Time to man up, Mr. Wright. Show us the contradicting evidence in the content of the blackmail letter.
It has to be the newspaper clipping because it's a blue gem. That's it. Take a good look at this newspaper clipping. It contains a picture of the Tear of Emanon, the stolen jewel.
What about it?
The problem is that this jewel's color is blue.
Color? I'm not much for discussing color myself.
According to the clipping, the color of the stolen jewel was blue. However, in the blackmail letter, a totally different jewel is mentioned. I'll take that red diamond you received the other day.
Red?
Which means the red diamond described in the blackmail letter is not the Tear of Emanon that Mask Damask stole at all.
Objection! And your point is, Mr. Trite? So you're trying to say that the blackmail letter was intended for someone else? Is that what you're trying to say? Right, Trite? That is what you're trying to say, right, Mr. Wright?
Well, is that what you're trying to say, Nick? Yes. Yes, it is. This is who Kane Bullard is actually blackmailing. Naturally, it was you, Detective Atme.
Do you have some sort of basis for this claim?
You have been personally involved in every single Mask Damask case. And in this last case, you recovered what was stolen and received a jewel as your reward.
A jewel?
Probably the one wrapped conspicuously around your finger. That red diamond ring. That is the diamond referred to in the letter. Which means that Kane Bullard wrote the letter in order to blackmail you.
Order! Order in the court! Order, I say.
It
seems you've gone to the far end with your childish pranks, Mr. Trite.
Uh-oh. I don't like the way he said that.
Kane Bullard blackmailing Luke at me? Are you for real?
Yes, I am. Nick, come on, stand up to him.
Then answer me this. The blackmail letter contains the following passage. If you don't want your identity revealed to the world... Yes, it certainly does. Kane Bullard threatened to make Luke Atmey's identity public knowledge, an identity he wanted to keep secret. So just what was that identity?
Oh, God. Atmey killed Kane Bullard because he was afraid of his secret becoming known. What was the identity he wanted to keep secret? This is what it all comes down to, Nick. The identity that Luke Atmey desperately wanted to keep secret was his identity as a blackmailer. Because we know the thing we know, Ace Detective, that makes no sense. Mask to Mask, he's not Mask to Mask. He was simply... I'm gonna walk through my logic here. Newspaper clipping. We have the crime scene. We have Mask Demasked, aka Ron DeLite, who we trust, and we're gonna assume that what he's told us is the truth. So he changed into this guard uniform after committing the crime, but Luke Atmey, being the ace detective he is, found out. And he found out everything, but decided instead of, pursuing justice, he was gonna start blackmailing Mask Demasked. Now, Mask Demasked was receiving blackmail letters all up until this final one right here. But it was very specific that Ron DeLite testified. I think I actually have a testimony from Ron DeLite. From his second heist on, he was stealing as directed by blackmail letters. And that last one he got was the only blackmail letter that ever instructed him to go somewhere. It was different. And that's where this all comes from. Luke Atmey was a blackmailer. Oh?
Objection.
Hey now, is that a little different from what you've been saying? You said that Kane Bullard was the one blackmailing Luke Atmey. Are you saying that Atmey was blackmailing someone else on top of that?
You have to admit that does sound a little odd. It's not odd. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Luke Atmey, but Ron DeLite was also being blackmailed by a certain someone. So did you start to receive blackmail letters starting after the incident? Yes, just a few days after the Tear of Emanon heist. After that, I started getting the plans in the mail. I received plans from some very kind person, incredibly detailed plans. Detailed plans? In which case, that would mean that Ron DeLite was actually Mask to Mask. That is what we are claiming. Someone else came up with the plans and had Mr. DeLite steal his targets for him. And that someone was none other than Luke Atmey. Shh! Silence! Now I see. It is all becoming clear. What is it? When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Careless, with a tendency to jump to conclusions. Am I wrong? Huh? How did you... You say that I, Luke Atmey, was blackmailing Ron DeLite? In which case I would naturally have known about his relation to Mask Demasked. Well, yes. Ron DeLite started receiving plans from his second crime onward, correct? Which means I learned of his identity when he committed the first crime.
Good point. You certainly couldn't have blackmailed him otherwise. In that case, let's see some hot, bitter evidence. During the first crime, how did Luke Atmey know that Ron DeLite was Mask to Mask?
Well, it's because it was here. Remember, Ron DeLite told us that he did a really hasty job hiding his tracks, and that this guy showed up, and that would be the only time for him to figure it out. It's got to be a newspaper clipping. I think I see it. See what? When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Gets into lots of mischief, trying to be the center of attention.
What do you mean?
This newspaper clipping. It has a picture of you and Ron DeLight in his guard uniform. It seems that Mask DeMask didn't just disappear into thin air. He just took off his outfit and hid it in a bucket.
That sounds far too stupid to be true.
Correct. With tricks like that, he couldn't fool a baby, let alone an ace detective. And that's when you figured it out, Mr. Atme. That's when you learned that under his mask, Mask DeMask was really Ron DeLight.
What the? Wasn't he supposed to be Mask DeMask?
Not only that, it looks like he wasn't even an ace detective.
I can't believe it! He was just a slimy blackmailer!
What a fraud, trying to pass himself off as an ace detective.
Why, how dare you expose me like that? Why, I mean, I have never blackmailed anyone in my life. I am a famous and proud ace detective, and also Mask DeMask. Why can't you understand that?
I'm afraid you are neither a proud thief nor an ace detective. You're a blackmailer and a murderer. That is your true identity.
How dare you? How dare you, Phoenix Wright? With that big mouth of yours. None of you can compare to my genius. So go on, discriminate. Ace Detective can handle your blackmail accusations.
He's breaking down.
It would seem we've finally gotten to the real answer.
That was quite a performance by Mr. Atme.
Bailiff, please prepare a cell for Mr. Atme.
That hammer strikes too fast. This hammer that strikes too fast has no time to aim.
What do you mean? I've already prepared to deliver my sentence.
Allow me to say one thing. I will be the one to judge.
You don't get much more in your face than that.
It appears that your claws weren't sharp enough, Mr. Trite.
Where do you...
It's true that you've proven a lot of things. Things like Luke Atme was a filthy blackmailer, and he wasn't at Lordly Taylor the night of the murder.
That's right. That's why he's the one who killed
But there's still one thing you've yet to prove.
And what's that?
Just because he wasn't at the warehouse doesn't mean he was at the murder scene. Therefore, if you can't prove this pitiful excuse for a man was at KB Security, then I don't see how a verdict can be delivered.
No way.
Order. Order in the court. Well, Mr. Wright?
This is it. This is the final round. I've got to prove that Atme was Mr. Bullard's... I've got to prove that Atme was at Mr. Bullard's office on that night. But can you really prove that?
That's long enough. Mr. Trite, I want to hear your answer.
That night, Luke Atme was at KB Security, and the defense... How can I prove it? How can I prove it? I got the treasure exhibit, the mask's calling card, the camera data, Ron's wallet and security key on the floor, which doesn't help, the publicity photo, the autopsy report, newspaper clipping, the fingerprintless CEO office buzzer, which is the only reason I think it might have, like, the only kind of hint I have. Kane's list of all the things that have been stolen from that guy, the buzzer record, Ron's testimony. Excuse me. Maybe we just go for it. The defense can prove it with evidence.
Are you sure?
Don't you worry, I'll watch over you as you break down and fall to pieces.
Very well, then let's see this proof. Prove that Luke Atme was at KB Security that night.
The only thing I have is this. This is the proof.
It's true. This is very important. However, I'm not so foolish as to think this will pass for evidence here.
Mr. Trite, it's time you learn the true flavor of life. No. The flavor of my special Godot Blend 49.
Well, Mr. Wright,
It's bitter. Very bitter. Come on, Nick. Don't give up now. What do I do? If I make a mistake here, it's over. Okay, I can't prove it. I can't prove it.
just as I thought.
But if we hear of more of Detective Atmey's testimony...
Unfortunately, that's as far as you go, Mr. Trite.
What do you mean?
I won't allow for any more testimony. That's what I mean.
What?
Have you forgotten Luke Atmey is here after we interrupted his own trial, and you have failed to prove that he committed the murder? I think it's time for this witness to return to his own trial and face his guilty verdict as mask to mask.
No.
Well now, Sir Loyal, it seems that love wins out in the end after all. I am the ace detective, as well as mask de mask. My verdict will verify that. Just as Lone Delight will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that with full force of my ace detectiveness.
The judge in no way is gonna allow that. Come on.
Order! Order in my court! That's enough deliberation over the witness.
I can't believe this. At this rate, Ron is... Don't give up, Nick. We still have tomorrow. We can look for more evidence and... By then, it'll be too late. Huh? What? Why?
Double jeopardy. What are the basic rules of any court of law?
Double jeopardy?
Should a defendant be tried and found innocent in court, the defendant cannot be tried again for the same crime. This is a fundamental rule of all courts, and it applies to this witness as much as it applies to anyone else. Mr. Atmey will be found guilty in a matter of minutes. Guilty is mask to mask, which means he will be innocent as far as the murder of Kane Bullard is concerned.
No way.
The fact that you were unable to prove Mr. Atmey's guilt of the crime here means that he will never again be tried as Kane Bullard's murderer.
That's dumb. Now there's nothing I can possibly do to win. Even if Ron is proclaimed to be innocent, the real killer, Luke Atmey, will go free?
You have cross-examined every statement the witness has made today, and as long as there is no more testimony, I'm afraid I have to declare that there will be no more further questioning of the witness. Are there any objections?
Yes! Object, Phoenix! Come on!
Then I hereby end the cross-examination of Luke Atmey.
I think I see it. Your Honor, when you were a child, this was on your report card every year. Has poor hearing and often makes mistakes as a result.
How did you...
Phoenix, raise your head up high. Have you forgotten what I used to tell you? A lawyer is someone who smiles no matter how bad it gets. That voice. No way. Long time no see, Phoenix. Mia! This is the true power of the Karain channeling technique. I know that it's really Maya who's standing before me, but right now she's my mentor, Mia Fey. Now then, let's do this. But there's nothing more we can do, Mia. Without any more testimony, I can't cross-examine. Not yet. The testimony's not over yet. What do you mean? Your Honor, just now you said something very interesting. You have cross-examined every statement the witness has made here today.
Yes, that's true, but...
Unfortunately, Your Honor, you're forgetting something. Earlier, after the last cross-examination, this witness made a number of remarks.
Well now, Sir Loyal, it seems that love wins out in the end after all. I am ace detective as well as mask de mask. My verdict will verify that. Just as Lone Delight will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that with full force of my ace detectiveness.
Yes, but these comments appear to have no importance whatsoever.
Very well. Then we shall prove their importance via cross-examination. At any rate, as long as the witness has made these remarks, we, the defense, assert our right to question them. Is that all right with you, prosecutor?
Is something the matter, Godot?
Oh,
Sir Loyal, it looks like you're one step too late. If you think such falsehoods will do anything at me, look at...
Let's hear it.
Huh?
It's true that the witness has made some remarks. So then, let's hear the last bit of cross-examination.
Mr. Godot, what are you?
Very well. Look at me. I will allow the defense to cross-examine your earlier remarks.
The defense would like to hear why you declare the defendant to be the true murderer.
So please, give one last bit of testimony.
Phoenix, this is it. This is our absolute last chance. Yes, Chief.
Indeed, it is true that I was not at Lordly Taylor. I had to leave to see about another vitally important job request. I had known about the date beforehand, so I had this photograph ready. My brilliant deduction was what informed me that the true culprit was Ron Delight, and thanks to the key card and wallet, it was abundantly clear that he was there. I was also able to make a deduction from the buzzer, which only sounded once. The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? The victim would have left prints if he sounded it, which means the killer sounded it. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask outfit, which is why he left no prints. And the blackmail letter, the victim lightly just mistook the color of the jewel. Therefore, all the evidence points to that poor boy.
Yo, he gave a long testimony. He dug himself.
The witness's earlier remarks do not appear to have been hastily prepared. All of his points have been explained, and none of them seem to contradict anything.
But of course,
But how do you know about the emergency buzzer?
the police investigation documents were directly through me, and I always look over their documents. It's elementary, Sir Loyal.
Are you going to make even more trouble for us now, Sir Lawyer?
I will not allow us any of your usual shenanigans, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor.
We cannot postpone Luke Atmey's trial any longer. This is your last chance.
Hang on a second. Just one chance?
It seems that the party's about to begin.
Well, Phoenix, there isn't any evidence that contradicts with that testimony. So it would seem... What do you mean, so it would seem? Listen, Phoenix. Pointing out contradictions doesn't always mean you have to present evidence, does it? At any rate, this is our last chance. If you can't point out a case-breaking contradiction, you lose. That's all there is to it.
Cup number 17. The last cup. It seems that time has come to put an end to this trial.
I have to find a final contradiction in this testimony, and I need to point it out without presenting evidence. Which means all I can do is find the contradictory remark and press it. Remember, you only get one chance.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. Please begin your final cross-examination.
The last testimony. Indeed, it is true that I was not at Lordly Taylor. A-okay with me. I have no issue with that. I had to leave to see about another vitally important job request. Suspicious. I don't like it, but we gotta look at everything. I had known about the date beforehand, so I had this photograph ready. Absolutely fine. My brilliant deduction was what informed me that the true culprit was Ron Delight. And thanks to the keycard and wallet, it was abundantly clear that he was there. Very fair. I was also able to make a deduction from the buzzer, which only sounded once. The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? The victim would have left prints if he sounded it, which means the killer sounded it. Mr. Delight was wearing his Masque de Masque outfit, which is why he left no prints. And the blackmail letter? The victim likely just mistook the color of the jewel.
Zevari.
Therefore, all the evidence points to that poor boy. Okay. back to the beginning. Not, okay, so this is the suspect. Had to leave. Okay, so we have, if this is true, we know that he left. He wasn't there. He was gone, right? I had known about the date beforehand, so I had this photograph ready. My brilliant deduction was what informed me that the true culprit was Rhonda Light. And thanks to the key card and wallet, it was abundantly clear that he was there. It was also able to make a deduction from the buzzer, which was only sounded once. The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? The victim would have left prints if he sounded it, which means the killer sounded it. But we've already proved this to be wrong. We've already proved this to be wrong because going back to, sorry, I need to look at the evidence to recombobulate my head. Rhonda Light, as we had definitely taken into, entered the room at precisely what time? 1 a.m. A little bit after, a little bit before. His wallet was there at 1 a.m. on the night of the crime. The logs for the buzzer played at 1:02 a.m. And we know for a fact that Rhonda Light was knocked out for a little bit of time, right? So we have already presented proof to this court today that the killer, if it was, wait, hold on, which means that the killer sounded it. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask and missing outfit, which is why he left no prints. So this isn't wrong. This statement is not wrong because the killer is him. It's true. The victim would not have left fingerprints. Or sorry, the killer sounded it. The victim would have left prints, so the killer had to sound it. But look at his hands. He's wearing gloves. He always wears gloves. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask outfit, which is why he left no prints. But we know that it wasn't. This is the contradiction in my head right now. I want to double check the rest of it. And the blackmail letter, the victim likely just mistook the color of the jewel. No. And okay, yeah, it's gotta be this. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask outfit, which is why he left no prints. Jesus. $50 no save. Do we believe can we work together though? Is the chat allowed to give me their input? $50 on the line for this one. This is like real lawyering. Let's go through everything one more time. I accept this challenge. I had known about the date beforehand, so I had readied the... Hold on. Indeed, it is true that I was not at Lordly Taylor. I am fine with this. I have no issues with this. I had to leave to see about another vitally important job request. There is not nearly enough here for a press to be worth it. It's not that either. I had known about the date beforehand, so I had the photograph ready. That is true. My brilliant deduction was what informed me that the true culprit was Rhonda Light. Of the murder? The true culprit was Rhonda Light, okay? And thanks to the keycard and wallet, it was abundantly clear he was there. No issue with that. I was also able to make a deduction from the buzzer, which only sounded once. The button didn't have any fingerprints on it. Why? The victim would have left prints if he sounded it, which means the killer sounded it. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask outfit, which is why he left no prints. There is on top of all this, there is absolutely no reason for the killer to sound the alarm unless there is a third person. This has to be it. This has to be it. I'm going in. Mr. Atme, about this last remark.
Objection. You still don't get it, do you, Trite? This isn't the time to be pressing the witness on every little statement.
I'm afraid you're the one who still doesn't get it, Mr. Godot.
What?
Mr. Atme, it seems you have finally admitted that you were in the CEO's office on the night of the murder.
How can you say that?
Let's review your testimony, shall we, Mr. Atme? The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? Mr. Delight was wearing his Mask to Mask outfit. Is that correct?
Indeed, that is what I said. The deductions are absolutely foolproof.
More like your deductions prove that you're a fool.
I am sorry? What devil do you mean?
For some reason, I'm starting to get real thirsty.
When exactly did we learn the fact that Ron Delight was dressed as Mask to Mask when he went to the scene of the crime?
That was, it was just a few hours ago. Back when my sixth cup was looking at me with a cold stare.
Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. That's right. The defendant had yet to tell anyone else this fact before the morning. Therefore, the only people who should know this are those who had been watching this trial. Do you understand now, Detective Atme? There is no way that you should have known about that. You were in the next courtroom being tried as Mask to Mask. So then, enlighten us. Just how did you know about this piece of information?
Come on! This detective must have known about it. He probably had plenty of chances to find out beforehand.
And it's those chances that I want to discuss next. That night, Mr. Delight was wearing his Mask to Mask outfit. There is one and only one way for Detective Atme to have found that out.
Only one way, you say?
Please remember, if you will, Mr. Delight's testimony. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. For a second, my client witnessed the real killer.
But Mr. Delight never saw him. There's no way to tell whether or not it was the real killer was Luke Atme.
It's with that statement that I'll turn this case on its head.
Just what are you implying?
Mr. Delight saw the real killer, correct? Now, if you turn that statement around, it stands to follow that the real killer had also seen Ron Delight.
Impossible!
Detective Atme, you saw Mask to Mask at the murder scene that night. You saw him when you killed Kane Bullard and assaulted Ron Delight. That was the only way you could have known what Ron was wearing.
Take a good look, everyone! Unable to find a rival worthy of my genius, I was forced to create one by myself, and here I am! A tragic clown.
That's the same line you gave yesterday.
But I think there's a little more meaning behind it this time.
What an awfully complicated incident. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Luke Atme, who was, in turn, blackmailing Ron Delight. And upon killing his blackmailer, Luke Atme tried to frame Ron Delight. He then claimed to be guilty as Mask to Mask in order to escape his true crime.
And to that end, he came up with this plan to use the double jeopardy rule when making his alibi.
At any rate, it would seem we finally found the truth.
Excuse me.
I came perilously close to besmirching the record of an innocent young man. Besmirching him with the title of murderer.
Don't ignore me!
Oh, I didn't realize you were there.
Why wouldn't he be? About the verdict.
I know, you never committed any murder.
That's right! I'm so glad you understand, but I really am Mask to Mask!
Huh?
So thanks to that trial yesterday, I'm innocent now, right? Yeah, right? Isn't he? He was tried yesterday and proven innocent as Mask to Mask, and no matter what, he can never be tried for the same crime, right? This is ridiculous. What was it you said? Double jeopardy?
Now that you mention it,
I've been careless.
Careless? What do you think, Mia? As the defendant says, the rule of double jeopardy is absolute. A defendant can never be tried twice for the same crime in which they were once found innocent. Then Mask to Mask is really innocent? For now. It would seem so. For now? This is so dumb.
now then, this court finds the defendant not guilty.
We did it! We saved our thiefy friend! Boy, this really is lucky. Wait, that isn't so good after all. You see, the thing is, I still am Mask to Mask. He's still ranting. Dweeb. October 14th, 3:35 p.m. District Court Defendant Lobby, number 4. You did it, Nick. Thanks, Mia. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Yeah. It's because Maya doesn't call on me much these days. Oh? I'm just joking, Phoenix. Don't take everything so seriously. But on the other hand, Maya, she seems kind of lost these days. You mean about becoming master of Karain Channeling School? Becoming the master means saying goodbye to our mother. You mean Misty Faye? Watch over her, will you, Phoenix? Of course. Well then, I'll see you around. Oh, Mr. Wright! I don't know what to say. Congratulations, Mr. Delight. Thank you so much. No, wait. Nothing really matters anymore, though, now that all of this happened. Come on, just be happy already! Maya, you've been cleared of the murder charges and get off as Mask to Mask to boot. But in exchange, I lost everything. What do you mean? Stealing security information from KB Security and becoming Mask to Mask. I did it all for one reason. For her. You mean your wife, Desiree? She hates criminals more than anything. Come to think of it, she was once held hostage by some robbers, wasn't she? She always said how she hated sneaky criminals. I knew that, but once I got fired from KB Security and lost all the money I had, she wouldn't have any reason to stay with me. I thought she would leave me for sure. So that's why you became Mask to Mask? Yes, but it's all over now. A broken bowl can never be put back together. That's not true, right, Nick? Right. Really? Can we go back to the way things were? You'll be fine, and Nick can prove it. I can? I kind of wish you would have checked with me first. Mr. Delate, even if a bowl is broken, there's always a way to put it back together. Look, I got one right here. The sacred urn? Desi was the one who found this. Desiree, your wife, she's always believed in you, Ron. That's why you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about anything. Ah, there you are. Miss Delight, you did it, Ronnie. You're innocent. I'm so happy. Thank you. I appreciate that. But, I suppose you don't want anything more to do with me, do you? Ronnie, why didn't you talk to me about what was going on? I had no idea you quit KB Security. I never imagined that you were really Mask to Mask either. Miss Delight, what are you gonna do now that you know? You're not gonna really leave him, are you? Come on, it's obvious, isn't it? How could I ever let a wonderful man like him get away? After all, my bike's really fast. So fast that there's no way he could ever get away. But didn't you say that you hated criminals? Oh, I only hate people who act all cowardly and sneaky, like that detective. I see. My Ronnie went and declared his crimes before he committed them like a man. I just love a man who's so chivalrous. Chivalrous? I knew I was right about you. Every day I spent with you is filled with thrills and excitement. Desi. Desiree, you really do love Ron, don't you? Nicky boy? Yes? I'm really glad I asked you to defend my Ronnie. Thank you so much. I'll never forget what you've done for us. Oh, well, take care of yourself. You too, Nicky boy. I can feel my something.
Mr. Nick, Mystic Maya, congratulations!
Talk about bad timing.
Mr. Nick, how could you, with another man's wife, in front of Mystic Maya?
So silly. So just as this case came to a close, so too did my consciousness. Ron said a broken bowl can never be put back together, but I know that's not true. I mean, just look. Here's a perfect example of one that was put back together even better than before. Aww, how nice. Episode 2, The Stolen Turnabout. Fini. Ladies and gentlemen, the stunning conclusion you've been waiting for. Recipe for turnabout? Oh god, it's gonna be chef based. It's gonna be based in a kitchen.